Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to delve into the finances. I'm going to do my best to explain PSR, FFP, amortization, what happens with wages, what happens when players go on loan with wages, and how that affects our ability to spend in this and subsequent windows. Strap in. Manchester United are in a mess, and we are looking at some very real consequences for the 2 decades of financial mismanagement, bloated spending, lack of accountability, and while Sir Jim Ratcliffe is making moves to cut the costs and incurring a lot of heat from United fans being referred to as Jim Glazer, things like the 40 grand cut to the former players' charity, they just don't sit right, especially when we're looking at somewhere in the region of nearly £1 billion in debt. So, like I said, I'm going to go through the PSR, the FFP, what it means, the debt, the wages that are strangling the club, why amortization and transfer profits aren't quite as simple as they seem, and whether Jim's cost-cutting measures are justified or if they're just really bad optically. So, first up, let's talk about how we got here. For the financial report that ended June 30th, 2024, United posted a net loss of £113.2 million. Now, that's bad because you're only allowed a £105 million loss over a 3-year rolling period. So in just 1 year, we exceeded our operating loss allowance. When you add the 2 previous years, the total hits £312.9 million in pre-tax losses, which massively exceeds United's PSR cap of £105 million over a rolling 3-year period. So how have United stayed compliant? Well, United have managed to avoid punishment through some PSR loopholes that exist, specifically youth development. That has helped us. Women's football investment, so expanding the squad and the infrastructure for the women. There's a reason why you saw United spending some money on that. This is it. And then stadium and infrastructure projects, including Carrington, which has had a little bit of a lick of pain. Now, these don't count towards the PSR losses, allowing us to stay just about compliant. And I believe we missed it by about 2 million in the summer. But it's masking a bigger issue: reckless spending on wages and transfers. And there's a harsh reality when it comes to the debt and liabilities. United's debt is nothing short of crippling. The club is currently £773.3 million in debt. And that breaks down to £400 million worth of debt, which is unpaid transfer fees. And 200 million of that is due next summer. So this isn't just some theoretical debt, something that may or may not actually exist. It's money we owe. And failure to meet those obligations could result in serious consequences, including PSR breaches, fines, transfer restrictions, and even point deductions. But here's the thing. Since the Glazer takeover in 2005, we have spent over 1.5 billion in interest payments alone. Just the interest. We haven't even touched the capital. Shareholders, which is mainly the Glazers, have taken out £155 million in dividends since 2016. That's 1.5 billion wasted on debt and dividends that could have been spent on players, modernising the stadium, infrastructure, or the long-term health of the club, but we didn't do that. And now we are staring down the barrel of a massive decision. Old Trafford is falling apart and needs a rebuild. A full rebuild is going to cost us somewhere in the region of 2 billion. Yeah, Jim decided to cut 40 grand on a former player's charity. It just doesn't touch the sides. It is literally throwing a bucket of water down a street. It's not going to do a damn thing. The amount of money that United are looking to try and raise, and what we need to just maintain our obligations when it comes to the debt, are eye-watering. Happy New Year, everyone. With 2025 here, it is the perfect time for a fresh start. We all have a habit that we would love to leave behind, and whether that's nail biting, doom scrolling, or, well, you know the one. Breaking free is tough. But what if I told you that there is a healthier, guilt-free way to fill that void? Introducing Fume, the sponsor of today's video. Fume is a revolutionary flavoured air device that lets you replace bad habits with good ones in a natural and satisfying way. There is no nicotine, there are no batteries, there are no toxins. It's just flavoured air that's as sleek as it is effective. Fume is crafted with care, it's high quality, it's got a weighted design that feels amazing to use, and it looks great too. Plus, it's not addictive, and making it a perfect alternative for anyone looking to do a fresh start. They've got flavours like cinnamon hearts, black licorice, and the fan favourite, spearmint. There's something for every single person. Spearmint in particular gives you a clean, refreshing sensation. It's perfect for tackling New Year head on. And here's the best part. Fume delivers flavour to your mouth, not your lungs. It's completely vapor-free. You can use it anywhere at work, in the gym, even during a cozy night in. It's also great for calming anxiety with satisfying snaps, clicks. It's got magnetic interactions to keep your hands busy. Over 300,000 people have already made the switch. Why not make 2025 the year that you join them? Use the code Stephen Howson, that's STEPHENHOWSON, at tryfume.com to get your free Fume topper with the journey pack. Just head to tryfume, that's TRYFUM.com, or scan the QR code on screen. Now, PSR, FFP, amortization. I'm going to try to explain all of those things as simply as I can. PSR, profit and sustainability rules, they limit the club to a £105 million loss over a rolling 3-year period. Certain expenses do not count towards that, giving clubs a little bit of flexibility. And I think Everton had some flexibility because of their stadium when they made some of the massive losses that they made, but they made more than they were allowed, even given the stadium. FFP, that's UEFA's financial fair play rules, that operates similarly, but applies to those that are competing in European competition. The way United are going, might not need to worry about that next season. Clubs balance spending with revenue to avoid sanctions like point deductions and competition bans. Amortization. So this is the one that people confuse. People have heard the phrase pure profit when talking about academy players, but you can still profit on players that you've bought and then sold for less than you bought them for, which makes no sense whatsoever on the face of things, but that's because of how amortization works. So I'll make it simple. 100 million. So let's say we sign someone for £100 million on a 5-year contract. That gets amortized over 5 years to the tune of £20 million per season. Now, if we sold that player after 3 years, 60 million of that transfer fee has been accounted for, 20 million per season times 3. So the net book value of that remaining cost is 40 million. But if you sold that player for 60 million after 3 years, you've actually made a profit on him, according to the way amortization works. You'd record a £20 million profit because the sale price is higher than the remaining book price value. So you would technically make a profit on that player. Wouldn't be the pure profit where it's all entire profit, the way it is with a academy player, but it would be some level of profit. Academy sales are pure profit. So if United managed to sell Marcus Rashford in this window, or the way we sold Scott McTominay, they were developed in-house, there were no transfer fees, that goes down as 100% pure profit under PSR. Selling them for £40 million each puts 40 million straight onto the books as profit. Wages. Wages are the silent killer in football finance because they've spiraled to a level which is genuinely unsustainable. And they're recorded as operating expenses. They're not part of the transfer profit calculations, otherwise it'd get incredibly messy, but they are a massive impact on the club's financial health and PSR compliance. United's wage bill was £364.7 million annually. Basically £1 million a day is what United was spending in terms of wages. Likes of Casemiro, Marcus Rashford, supposedly on somewhere in the region of 300 grand per week. Bruno Fernandes recently renewed at a higher salary. The Champions League, missing out on the Champions League means the club loses approximately 80 million in lost revenue, which would be across TV and match day revenue that they would get. And that has a big impact on PSR. Wages don't directly affect the transfer profit calculation, but they do affect your operating costs and your operating profits, which do come under PSR compliance. A loan deal, for example, where the buying club or the loaning club would cover the wages, would help improve our operating profits in terms of PSR. But I think if we're looking to offload Marcus Rashford, we're probably going to be subsidising a percentage of that. If a loan came in where it fully covered the wages, United would reduce their wage bill, let's say it was 300 grand a week, by 15 million a year. If the loan club also pays a loan fee, that goes down as direct income. But again, it's a short-term fix. The real financial relief comes from a permanent sale with a big transfer fee, because that's pure profit under the PSR. And then you've got the other major outgoing as a club: transfers. So United spent about 200 million last summer on players. Joshua Zirkzee, Lenny Euro, De Ligt, Mazraoui. Under PSR, any major spend has to be offset by player sales. Now, obviously, we sold Mason Greenwood, we sold Scott McTominay, 27 million, 30 million respectively. But constantly selling academy products just isn't sustainable. It weakens the squad depth, it weakens the sort of culture inside the squad, and it damages your potential for long-term success. You can't just sell all your academy products at all times. You have to develop some, and you have to develop those for the first team. You can't just rely on signing every single player that plays in your first team for the first team, especially at the rate that United are quoted to buy players. And this is why Jim's doing some of the cost cutting, I believe. 250 staff redundancies, the 40 grand to the former players' charity, staff bonuses and events cancelled, Sir Alex Ferguson and Gill's ambassadorships ended. I guess every little helps. The optics are not good. Sir Alex Ferguson doesn't need the 2 million a year. It's a hell of a lot of money, which he's had over the last decade. But the optics of these are horrendous. The optics of seemingly not supporting former managers, seemingly not supporting former players, the people that built this club, the ticket price gouging, those are things which people are not going to accept for very long. And you can't play with the goodwill of the people. It's not going to last well for you. You require the goodwill of the people and the patience of those people as you're going about rebuilding this football club. You can't piss those people off. As I've said a few times now, my dad said if it's 66 quid on our season tickets next year, he's out. And he will not be alone. It's such an eye-watering amount. And it's also stupid, irrelevant, what the price of a ticket at Fulham is, and comparing that to what the price of a ticket at Manchester United is. And, without digging out some of our American viewers coming and telling us, oh, it's 400 quid to go and watch New York Giants. Respectfully, mate, I don't give a fuck. I do not give a fuck. Football is a working class game watched by working class people, right? That's what it is. That's what got it to be in the monumental thing that it is now. Take it away from those roots and you lose the game. You've lost the soul in a lot of ways. If you want to accelerate the soul leaving, this is how you do it. We are worse off as a culture if that's what happens. You lose the fans, the staff, the legends, the stadium. Who are you? I think if Jim wants to be seen as different, he has to act different. I think he's been cast as the villain in this. It's a necessary evil that's required because I don't think the Glazers ever had any intentions of paying any of this off, which is why they didn't. I think they always thought something had come up. And ultimately something did come up. And so Jim's the guy that's got to front it. Jim's the guy that's got to be seen as the one that's paying it off. But I think he needs to have a real think. The impact of that 40 grand on the former players' charity versus the impact of it on the bottom line, I think you need to make some smarter decisions. Because when you're looking at trying to spend 2 billion on a stadium, you'll spend that 40 grand on paint for fucking toilets. So I'd think on, yes, there has to be an address when it comes to the transfer spend to keep us under PSR regulations. Yes, wages have to be gotten a grip of. Yes, if the club was spending and become bloated and couldn't sustain and the productivity wasn't there from some of those members of staff, then yeah, I guess you're doing the right thing. If that was the case. I don't know if it was the case. I don't work at United. I couldn't possibly comment on whether those people were worthy of keeping their jobs or not. It's not for me to say. I'm just saying from an optics point of view, from a fan point of view, you've got some problems. I would hope that whilst they're doing this, they're looking at maximising what revenue can be brought in. Not necessarily in a Barcelona sense, because I think Barcelona in 15 short years have completely lost their souls. 2007, Barcelona didn't have a sponsor on their shirt. And in 15 years, they've gone from not having a sponsor on their shirt to not having anything that isn't bolted down that they can sell in their stadium. The Nou Camp naming rights, their future TV revenue, like basically just sold everything that they can because of how financially mismanaged they've been. And I feel like United are going down the same path. And I thought we were better than that. Yes, we've had to live with the Glazers for 20 years. And this was the thing that, for all of us that was on those protest marches 20 years ago, this is fucking why. Because what had happened 20 years ago just happened to Leeds. And we was in the very real prospect of it happening to Manchester United as well. You know, the TV revenue is a bubble. And it's going to burst at some point. It can't exponentially keep rising. Player wages keep rising. The players have had a hand in this. Agents have had a hand in what's happening here. Because it's an arms race. If them down the road are going to offer more than us lot here, people will go down the road. That's how it works. And you have to compete. But it's not never ending. And at some point, you got to pay the piper. And I think United are having to pay the piper at the moment. 20 years of growing chickens. Those hens have come home to roost. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hopefully that's explained some of the situation that we're in and why we're not spending at the moment. See you in a bit. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.